In hype for the new Hunger Games prequel, I decided to revisit the original Hunger Games film. And as I started to watch this film, I came to a shocking realization. I don't think I've ever actually watched Original Recipe Hunger Games before. I don't think I've actually seen the movie. I don't know how this happened. I watch too many movies. I would like to say all the movies, but there are so many that cannot possibly be true. But I love to watch movies, franchises, YA film things. I've seen Divergent 1 and probably 2. I don't think I saw 3. They may have stopped at that point. I don't know. But I was certain that I had seen the original Hunger Games film. But I don't think I actually have watched the film. I'm very aware of what happens in the Hunger Games. The Hunger, the Games, Katniss Everdeen, she's got a bow. I felt like I knew so much about this franchise, and I do know so much about this franchise, I thought I must have seen the first movie. But I think I haven't, because I watched this film and I reckon like 60% of this movie, I was like, what? That's crazy. I learned so many things about this movie. And so either this is the actual first time I have finally watched The Hunger Games, or potentially and probably more likely I saw it at the time and I just don't remember it because I have a terrible memory and I didn't like it at the time because I was one of those guys when like the first movie came out and everyone's like, oh my god, you gotta watch The Hunger Games. The Hunger Games is so good. And I'm like, Hunger Games? More like not as good games as Battle Royale, the Japanese movie that's the exact same premise with so many similar beats. I was a Battle Royale kind of guy back in 2012, I want to say. Let's say 2012. 2012 and or 11 and or 13. Around that time when the movie came out, I was a Battle Royale guy. I was that intolerable guy who was like, oh, you like the Hunger Games. You don't even know. I saw Battle Royale. It's got blood and gore and is horribly more violent and mean. I don't even like this PG-13 Hollywoodization of Battle Royale. Boo, I said to the movie at the time. Which is probably why I didn't watch it. Or, as I said, I did, and I just don't remember it. So this is me revisiting, but potentially watching for the first time, The Hunger Games. So, what did I think of The Hunger Games? It was pretty good. I was surprised. I was genuinely very surprised how much I enjoyed this movie. I thought it was pretty fun. I thought it was like a really interesting and thought-provoking and fascinating little movie. I do think the first half of the movie, in which we are just building up to the titular Hunger Games, is easily the best part of the movie. And then when we get to those very hungry games, I'm like, I'm not as invested now. I don't think this is very good. I really love all of the setup for the Hunger Games. I love the world, the lore, the mythology behind this universe. I love the idea of the class divide and all those things. So I absolutely love the idea that these contestants, these tributes, these few chosen, the 24 chosen people, I love the idea that they have to get sponsors, so they have to kind of show themselves and present themselves in a very likable fashion so that during the Hunger Games, people can send them things. I think that is a really interesting kind of like little nugget. I particularly like the idea that Peter kind of feels like he doesn't know what to do in this situation, so he's like, alright, so everyone seems to like Katniss because she shot that bow into the apple or whatever, and is just generally a sexy, charming, kind of wonderful woman, and I'm just this nothing kind of guy. I probably relate to him on that level, I think. But I really love the idea that he's like, oh man, I loved this woman back in my District 12. Let's go with 12. I loved her back in that. And then bloody Stanley Tucci with the most horrendous wig. He's like, oh my god, well, if you win, you can go back to her. And he's like, no, I can't, because she's also here in the Hunger Games. It's Katniss Everdeen, the one with the bow. And I really like the idea that they kind of fake this, like, beautiful love kind of situation going on, and then how that progresses to the end of the film where they've got the two berries and they're like, we've got to eat these berries at the same time, we're going to do a whole Romeo and Juliet situation, and then it stops and it makes the people have two winners. Although I suppose Romeo and Juliet probably isn't like the correct phrase. Like a successful Romeo and Juliet situation, I suppose. I loved all of that. I thought all of that was really interesting and kind of fun. I absolutely love the idea that Katniss has teamed up with this little girl. Her name is Rue? Something like that. The little child girl. And she like is teaming up with her for a little bit because Katniss is like not a monster. And then she makes like a funeral situation. She kind of creates like a bed of roses around her or whatever. She does a whole thing and she's like honors the death of Rue. And the whole district, whatever, from wherever Rue is from, the district uprises and they cause chaos and they do some big rioting and they're all like, bum, 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 bum. You know, they do that thing. And I love the idea that it's like the people, like the fancy pants people, I don't know, from the city, the citadel, the government people, the 1%. Let's just call them the 1%. I don't know what that government little place is called, but the people with the weird beard cuts and the hair and stuff, the people who just love a Hunger Games. The costumes as well. I live for the costumes. They are crazy, they are absurd, they are so ridiculous that they kind of go, like, they almost become so ridiculous I can't take it seriously, but they are so much more ridiculous than not taking them seriously. I suddenly am like, oh no, I think you've made your point, like, quite effectively, somehow, with these ridiculous costumes, and these colors, and just the way everyone looks and acts. It feels so ridiculous. It kind of, I don't know, it does a really good thing that these kind of dystopian YA novel kind of movie situations can kind of do. And I thought that all worked really, really well. And I love that the government guy, Mr. Snow, Donald Sutherland, he's all like, I don't like this situation. We've got to kind of, you know, stop these riots. So we'll focus on that love angle and we'll make them want her to win. And they'll forget about rioting. For now, probably in the sequels, they go back to rioting. One has to imagine. I think my favorite part of the film was the fake out when they're like, okay, two people for the first time ever, we'll get the two people from the same district. If they are the last two, they can both survive. And then when it's just Katniss and Peter, they are both there. And then there's just like a voiceover guy and Stanley Tucci or whoever it is like, hey, so, we said you'd both survive. We changed our minds. One of you has to kill the other one. And I'm like, oh my god, that's like actually really, really amazing. Really, I was shocked. I love the idea that they were like, all right, we're going to do this thing. We'll have the two people stop the riots. And at the end, they're like, no, we were just trolling. Because we're the 1% or whatever. I thought that was really effective. And then Katniss, thinking on her feet, because she's the main character or whatever, she's like, I've got these poison berries. Let's eat these poison berries together. And they go to do a successful Romeo and Juliet situation. I loved all of that. All of that was good. I feel like my expectations were low, and they were exceeded in moments like this. The stuff that did not work for me was like the 45-minute chunk where it was like, we're doing a Hunger Games. Oh my god. Katniss Everdeen. She's out there alone in the wilderness. She's got to kill or be killed. And there is never really a point in the film where she like has to kill or be killed, except for when she's fighting like the worst people and like she reactionarily like shoots people and kills them. But she's never forced to like kill anyone who doesn't really deserve to die. So all of that falls really flat. And it reminds me of the fact that when I probably watched this back in 2011, 12, until 13, whenever it came out, that like this is just a PG Hollywood version of Battle Royale, whereas Battle Royale really kind of pushed the limits and really forced the characters to do some really horrendous things. So all of that stuff didn't really work for me. It just feels a bit like, I don't know, easy. Katniss kind of gets away very easily. I like the berry moment, but every other moment in the games itself feels quite lackluster. Like at one point, all the kind of tough warriors from the closer districts to the the capital, they like train and they like hone their skills and they become evil killer warriors, and they go to be volunteers. We've got the son of Ragnar from Vikings, Alexander Siddig, I think maybe is his name. But he's like the main bad guy, and he's like, oh, I love killing. I'm a killer. And like he and a bunch of boys and some girls, the evil people, they like trap Katniss, and she's like up a tree, and they're like trying to shoot her, and they're like, oh, I can't get her. And they wait, and she like hits like a beehive of like killer bees, and the bees hit them, and all of that stuff falls a little flat for me. But what I absolutely love in this movie is all of the stuff outside of the Hunger Games. I loved all of the stuff with bloody Haymitch, or whatever his name was. I thought all of that was really, really good. Woody Harrelson is amazing. He's got no shoes on. He's a drunk. He's like, how are you going to survive the games? You're not. You're going to die. And he just has a horrible attitude that's very kind of sad and depressing. But I like the idea of all the stuff that kind of creeps up into the games. The way that like she has like this dressmaker. I don't know who he is, but he was pretty fun. And he's like, I'm going to make your dress catch on fire. And she's like doing the fire thing, and everyone's like, ooh, we love this fire stuff going on. So I love the idea of the sponsors and them having to present themselves in certain ways, and they do the fake romance and all that stuff to get people to send them things. But I really feel like they should have pushed that idea a little further. Like, I would love the idea where they could just send, like, anything. Like, if they really liked Katniss and Peter being a couple, they just send them, like, an AK-47. She's, like, sitting in the tree. And instead of bringing, like, I don't know, healing medicine, like some aloe vera or whatever they brought her, they just bring her, like, a gun, and she just, like, gets an AK-47, and she's like... like, I just think that would be a funner, more interesting movie. That being said, I thought the movie was pretty good. I just think the sponsor situation, I would love to see some really insane uses of that, rather than just some jelly they put on their skin and they go, oh, I'm healed now. Yay. Okay, so let's talk Peter and his makeup skills. It is maybe the most unhinged, insane, completely absurd part of this film. It's the part of the film that I went, what? Sorry, what? The Hunger Games, the movie, and presumably the book? What is going on with Peter and his makeup skills? So early on in the film, when they're doing the training and all that cool stuff, he does some makeup, and he's like, look, it's like the wood, I'm good at makeup. And he does some makeup, and you're like, okay, I wonder if that's going to come back later in the film. And it does. There is a point where Katniss is just wandering the wilderness in the Hunger Games arena, and she's just walking along, and Peter grabs her leg, and he's like, it's me, Peter. And his face, he's done the brilliant makeup skills, like brilliant, incredible, intricate, well-designed makeup on his face, and he's hiding. And yet, like, most of his body is just like got some grass on it or whatever, and he's hiding there, and he's put so much effort and time into this makeup to hide in some position by some rock to camouflage himself as a rock, I guess. And yet immediately he grabs her leg and he's like, I'm up. And he just gets up, shakes off all the mud and the rock and the makeup, and I don't understand. I don't understand what is going on. For one, the gamekeepers, the game makers, the guy with the funky beard cut situation, he's all like, oh, Katniss, she's wandering too far from the games. So Katniss at one point is like, I'm not going to kill anyone. I'm not going to kill anyone. I'm not a killer. And she wanders off to just hide and not be part of it. And their response to that is, okay, start like a bushfire. And then the bushfire happens and she starts running, and they're like, also some fireballs? Let's just shoot some fireballs at her. I don't understand what kind of magic science is going on, but they're shooting fireballs at her, and she runs back towards people so they can do a Hunger Games battle royale thing and kill each other. So like, at points in the game, it is set up that the gamekeepers, the game makers, at points when they see characters trying to like just go off and like escape the games and not have to be in situations where they kill or be killed, they fireball them back towards the people. So we've established that. And yet, They just like watch Peter as he sits there for, I have to imagine, is like, let's say, I'll be generous and say 6 hours of makeup. And he's just sitting there. I don't know. Where do you even get any of this makeup? Well, I don't even understand that. Let's throw that aside. He picked up a backpack from the original backpacks that were there, and he found the makeup kit's backpack. And he's just doing the makeup. He's like slowly applying it to his face. He finds a rock. He's like, okay, I'll do that rock. I'll be here. And then he does his face, and he's like, okay, cool. And then he just like puts some green stuff on him. And at no point do the Gamekeeper Game Makers people go, he is trying to escape and evade the kill or be killed, the whole Hunger Games situation. And they don't fireball him. They don't do anything. They just let him sit there and do that. I don't understand. It just doesn't make any sense to me. The makeup is so intricate and perfect, but it is just so bizarre and weird. It's just like, my brain doesn't, like, it can't process the moment properly because it is so silly. It is so hilariously dumb. He's put so much effort into this thing. The idea that the Gamekeepers let him put this effort in to hide, I guess that's part of the game. You can just hide if you've used your incredible makeup skills and it isn't hiding the way Katniss Everdeen was hiding when she ran away, so it doesn't like elicit the need to throw fireballs at you to throw you back into the game. I just think it's a weird thing to put in a movie. Another aspect of this film that I found really interesting was like the moment where Katniss is hanging out with Rue and they see some mockingjays, and I'm like, ooh, the name of the third book and third and fourth movies, Mockingjay. And they're like, the Mockingjay makes a sound, will make the sounds because of the mockingjays for some kind of plot reason, I can't remember. But it's like the dun 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 dun, and I'm like, that's a thing I know from this franchise. But the fact that it's like the bird called Mockingjay, the little pin thing that's going to be the uprising situation that I remember seeing from Mockingjay Part 1, the dun 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 dun. And just finding out that was part of some bird call situation, it was interesting and fascinating. And now I'm talking about it, it actually doesn't sound that interesting. But I was like, ooh, I've learned a thing about this franchise that I did not know. Even though I've probably seen this movie before, but maybe I haven't. Maybe this is me experiencing the movie for the first time, actually watching the movie and not just like seeing clips of it online as people talk about it. I liked that. Also, the dun 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 dun. I am 100% positive that the dun 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 is just 4 of the 5 tones from Close Encounters of the Third Kind when they're talking to the aliens and they're trying to interact with the aliens, and it's like a bum 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 bum, and there's like a 5th note. It feels like they just cut one of the notes out and put that into their movie. So I am claiming 100%, even though I did not double check to check this, but it's the same notes. I 100% think it's the same notes. It might not be, but it sounds similar enough where a movie that I saw maybe a decade and a half ago, suddenly I was just like, it's Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I am 100% positive. I feel like now that I'm saying it as I'm recording, I should have checked, but I didn't. Overall, I thought this film was surprisingly good, if not a PG-13 Hollywoodization of Battle Royale. Jennifer Lawrence is amazing. Peter, the guy who plays Peter, is amazing. The Liam Hemsworth, the second Hemsworth brother, he's good for the 45 seconds of the movie he's in the movie. I thought he would be in the movie more. I remember him being like the second boyfriend. Like, it's like, is she going to marry Peter or is she going to marry Liam Hemsworth? But, I mean, I haven't seen the other movies. Or I have, but I don't remember. At this point, who's to say? But I really thought he would play more of a role in the movie, whereas really all he does is like have a couple of cutaway shots where he's like, ooh, I don't like that Katniss maybe loves this Peter guy and this Peter guy has a crush on her, I don't like that. Because the only real actual scene in the movie is he's like Katniss! Ah! And he does like, he waves his hands about and he's like, it's me, Katniss. It's Katniss, it's me. At the start of the movie, and he stops her from killing a deer. And then he throws a rock and they kill a bird and he's like, well, we got some food, we got a bird. And she's like, that's the first deer I saw in a year. In a year. It's the Hunger Games. They're hungry, I think. And she's like, I haven't seen a deer in a year. He stopped her from killing a deer that could probably feed them all for a long time, a period of time where they were not going to be eating deer, and now they can't eat deer because he stopped her from eating deer, because for reasons I don't understand. Am I meant to like this guy? He seems like a prick. I don't understand why he stopped her from killing that deer so they could eat that delicious deer meat. Are they not hungry? Because he doesn't look hungry. That's another point I want to address. No one looks hungry. Like, the clothes they're wearing and like the way the districts are presented is as if they are hungry. They don't look hungry though. Chris Hemsworth, no, the other Hemsworth, Liam Hemsworth, he looks like he eats a lot of protein, a lot of grilled chicken, probably some broccoli on the side, because otherwise, how is he getting so ripped? Not Chris Hemsworth ripped, obviously, because he's the second Hemsworth, but he's looking good, like fed, well fed, like a man who isn't hungry in some kind of Hunger Games situation. And I understand. It's a movie. You want him to look sexy and cool and ripped, but it just doesn't make any sense in the context of like the actual film that you made. So yeah, I liked The Hunger Games. I didn't think I would like The Hunger Games, but I liked The Hunger Games. Mostly because of Peter's makeup. It's so silly.